Hello Secondary 2. This is actually the second video that I've made for you, but the first one was too long, so I'll have to be faster. This is where I'm sleeping tonight. It's the information center of a service area on the road that I'm traveling down, and I'm quite lucky that I've made it here tonight. That's a tatami room. The other groups I've talked to about what a tatami is. With you, I won't. If you want to find out what tatami is, look on the internet. Okay, so your questions. Hang on a second while I set this up. Okay. Right, there's a lot of questions. I congratulate you on the number of questions that you've sent me. You've sent me more than any other group. I'll have to be faster because I don't want to be longer like the last time. So, I've got questions from Ramon, Gonzalo, Libe, and Alvaro. And has the bike given me any problems, like any punctures? No problems, no punctures so far. Can you send us a video to see what Japanese people are like? Yes, I'll do that, and there'll be plenty of opportunities. It's a long trip, and I'll be in contact. At the moment, it's kind of a bit lonely. I'm on my own, so I haven't seen so many. But I'm going to be meeting the organisation soon, so there'll be a chance then, and many chances. Do you know any Japanese people? Can you talk to us about, well, you say man, can you tell us about him? People. I lived in Japan for 2 years. I do know Japanese people, but I'm going to send a separate video talking about Japanese people later on. Am I doing the journey alone? Yes, me and the bicycle. How do you carry all your stuff while biking? I'm going to make a separate video to show you all the stuff that I'm carrying. It's not that much. I've got 2 panniers at the back, which hold my clothes, not very many clothes, and my PC, my computer and stuff like that, and I've got a little bag which fits on the handlebars at the front. But I'll do a separate video to introduce you to all my stuff. Eugenia, Ana, Ainhoa and Alejandra, why did you start this trip? Because I lived in Japan before, and it's been an ambition of mine since I left Japan. I wanted to come back and travel from the north to the south. And I finished a job in Malaysia recently, and I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, so I decided to take some time out, and I thought now's the time to make this trip. I didn't know that I would be doing it on a bicycle. What do you eat in Japan? Is the food similar to ours? Again, I'm going to make a separate video about Japanese food. I'll take you into the supermarket and I'll show you, and perhaps in a restaurant too. But basically what I eat is I stop in the supermarket, I buy a bit of some tomatoes, some bread, some fruit, or I stop in a convenience store, and I usually sit down and eat by the roadside. And I try to go to a restaurant and eat well at least once a day. It doesn't always happen, but I try. Have there been many earthquakes while I was here? While I'm here? No earthquakes at all. I have experienced an earthquake once before when I lived here, but very short earthquake, very strange sensation to feel the floor moving, but nothing since I was here. What's the weather like? Well, no earthquakes, but 2 typhoons. 24 days I've been in Japan, and I think maybe 5 days of sun and 19 days of rain and wind and more rain and more wind. So, not very nice weather. Have you fallen from your bike? No, thank God I haven't fallen from the bike, and I hope that I never do. Irache Seoane and others. It doesn't say who the others are, so hello others. How do you communicate with the Japanese? I know a little bit of Japanese. I know the numbers, I know a few adjectives and a few verbs, and I kind of string it together. I can't have any real sort of deep, meaningful conversation with them, unfortunately. But I can certainly communicate enough to communicate my basic needs. And sometimes I come across Japanese that speak more English. Japanese generally understand English, even though they don't speak so much because their education system doesn't teach them to speak. Yeah, why are you traveling from the north to the south and not from the south to the north? Japan is in the northern hemisphere. The north of the country is much more in the north than the south is. So I'm starting off in September in the north, and the weather should have been quite pleasant. It's been a bit nastier than I thought. And then I'm heading south to warmer southern latitudes. So that means that as the autumn advances and the weather gets colder, I'm also heading south. So I'm heading to warmer latitudes. That's the reason I'm heading north to south at this time of year. It would also, if I were doing it in the spring, then it would be logical to do it the other way around, work from the south to the north, because April in Kyushu, in the south, would be quite pleasant, and then as I went north, it would be getting warmer as the spring advances and summer is coming. But because I'm going in the autumn, I'm doing it that way around. Okay. Natural disasters, earthquakes, tsunamis while I've been here, no. Just the 2 horrible typhoons. Where do I get my food from? I think I've answered that question. And how do I wash and carry my clothes, and where do you shower daily? Well, in Hokkaido I was able to, most days I ended the day in a village or town that had an onsen, a Japanese spa. I think I've mentioned the onsen in another video. Onsen, the Japanese spa, is very, very popular and very, very common and very, very cheap. And the Japanese go in there and they scrub themselves down before they go into the onsen water, and then they soak in the lovely hot, very hot thermal baths. And there's also usually a sauna in the onsen, and lots of lovely things like jacuzzi style things. Very, very nice, the onsen. Recently I haven't had that, and to be honest, the last 3 days until I got here, I had hardly washed. I clean my teeth where I can, but I haven't really washed very well. I'm on my own, so I don't think anybody's complaining. But here I had a shower, a kind of shower. And clothes, the dirty clothes, I carry them around until I get to a place where I can do a laundry. There's laundries around. And also I can wash. I'm sometimes staying with people through an organization called Couchsurfing, which is people either host or are hosted. So a traveler would be hosted, and if you're not traveling, then you host. And if I go to a couchsurfer's house, then they'd be very willing and happy to wash my clothes for me. But I'm not sort of super clean every day. If you're traveling, then that's not how it works. From Adrienne, Alex, Marina and Susanna, is the trip fun? Fun is not exactly the word that I would use. I would say it's very satisfying, it's fascinating, it's interesting, it's tiring, it's frustrating. Most of all, it's satisfying. I mean, it's a challenge, and every day, you get on the bicycle and you cycle, and your legs, sometimes you do not want to be cycling, but you carry on, and you get to the top of the hill, and then everything is wonderful again. And then you pass by rice fields and people working in the fields, or you see fishermen pulling up their nets, or people working on the road. It's very, very interesting, and for me it's very satisfying. I enjoy this kind of trip, but it depends what you mean by fun. What is fun? What do Japanese people look like? Japanese people, well, the typical stereotype is the long eyes and sometimes the teeth. It's true, actually, that Japanese teeth are not, Japanese don't seem, they have a bit of a problem with teeth. But actually the Japanese have changed quite a lot. The traditional idea of Japanese is that they're quite small, but just like in Spain, when I when I was a teenager and I went to Spain in the 70s, I'm 1.76 m, so I'm not particularly tall. But at that time, I was tall. But now, 40 years later, Spain has got very many. The average height in Spain has gone up, and the same in Japan. And the reason is nutrition. I think that your generation and the generations just before you eat very differently, and maybe more than the generations before that. It's the same in Japan. Japanese eat a lot of different kinds of food now that they didn't eat before, so they're certainly a lot taller. But I'll give you a chance to see lots of Japanese people, I hope, through videos in the future. The weather, I think I've mentioned the weather, horrible weather. Is buying things expensive? Japan is quite an expensive country. It's a little bit cheap, a little bit more expensive, about 10%, 15% more expensive than Spain, maybe, something like that. It's not cheap. But I'm trying to get by on a budget of 3,000 yen a day, which I'm generally managing. If you want to know what 3,000 yen is, check it up. How do you communicate with Japanese people? I think I've answered this question before, have I? I've answered so many questions. Yes, no, I haven't. I do the best I can. I can understand a bit of Japanese. Have I answered this question? Excuse me. Yes, I have. Sorry, I get so confused with all these videos. Why did you decide to go to Japan instead of another country? Because I had this ambition to travel from the north of Japan to the south. I've lived in Japan before, but I wanted to come back and travel more extensively. It's not cheap to travel in Japan, and when I was working here as a teacher, I didn't really have that much money to go very, very far, and I really wanted to see all the country. So that's the reason I come back. And I like Japan. I like Japanese people in general. Can I film people in the streets because you only see me in the videos? Yes, you'll have plenty of opportunities to see people in the streets. And I've already got quite a lot of ideas from different comments that people have made about things to video. Sandra, Anne, is it Anne? Yes, Anne, Carlotta and Natalia. What made you go to Japan? I think I've answered this question. My feeling that I wanted to travel from the north to the south. How did you get the bicycle from England, or did you buy it in Japan? No, I didn't buy it in Japan, and I didn't bring it from England. I wasn't in England before I came here. I was working in Malaysia. I bought a bicycle in Malaysia to just use in Malaysia. It's not a super touring bike. I didn't think that I would be doing this trip when I bought the bike. And if I'd known, I would have bought a much lighter bike. My bike is cheap. It cost me about £200, so what, about 250 euros, something like that. So it's not an expensive bike, and it's quite heavy, but it's okay. How did you get from Hokkaido to Honshu? I took a ferry. It left at 9:15 in the evening, and it arrived the following morning at 4:45 a.m. How are you going to help the people in Japan? I am supporting 4 organizations. They're all mentioned on my website, www.thefaceofcircumstance.com, on the page which is called Sponsorship and Donation. And people go to that page, look at the organizations, read a little bit about them, and choose the ones that they feel that they would like to donate to. Then they click on the link on my page directly to the organization and donate to that organization. That's how I'm doing it. And then they send me an email to tell me what they've donated, who they've donated, who they are and who they've donated to. And I hope maybe you will too. Where are you taking all your food and clothing? On the bike, on the panniers, and the food I usually tie onto the back in a plastic bag, and then when I want to eat, I stop and untie the plastic bag and eat. Okay, that's the end of the questions. I'm sorry I've rushed through them because I was worried about the 15 minutes. I think I've got it under 15 minutes this time. Thank you very much for your questions. If I didn't say so at the beginning, I'll say now that you were the group that asked me most questions, so thank you. And I really enjoy getting your emails, and I'm really tempted sometimes to just write back and answer you, but I kind of feel that it's more interesting if I video. Hopefully, I hope you will send me some questions for the organizations that I'm going to be meeting. As I mentioned before, they're all on my website, and I'm going to be seeing all of them in the next 10 to 12 days, and it would be great if I had some questions from you for them. Okay, thank you very much, and it's time for my bed. It's late, and my legs are tired. Night-night. Bye-bye.